Guitar geeks, amplifier aficionados, and purveyors of effects pedals. Today on the 7-Minute Mark, I wanted to go over something that has been a source of confusion for a lot of people. It's called the effects bus, and I'm going to show you how to do it in Pro Tools, which is the DAW of my choice. And the reason I use these are basically for one reason. I need to save DSP power. I use Universal Audio and I use their amazing plugins. And after a while, when you open up a lot of instances and you have a heavily laden track, lots of tracks actually, you might get a pop-up that says, some of the plugins are disabled. That's a bummer, man. It sucks. So one of the ways to get around it, you can either buy a Universal Audio DSP accelerator. But for right now, the way I get around it and the way a lot of engineers do this is we create a studio effects bus. And what I've got here is an example of that. And the reason we do this is because a lot of times a track or multiple guitar tracks, for example, are going to share. It's a similar track. But again, as I've gone over in another video prior, we layer guitar tracks to build up, a real thick, big sound. And when you do that, you want to kind of, use some EQ on it. You want to use some compression on it, and you want to do a lot of things to it. And each track, and I'm talking, there could be, several tracks. There could be, 20 tracks of guitar in a session. So if you're going to use, for example, a Pultec, which is a great tube EQ, and you try to put it on 20 tracks, and then a compressor like an 1176, you're going to run into some problems potentially down the line. You're talking vocals, bass guitar, etc. So what you can see here is I've opened up on the drums, for instance. I've got a drum auxiliary track, and under that I have an effects track. And essentially what's done here is we go ahead and we open up a send, and in this case, I'm sending the drum auxiliary is going to be residing on buses 7 and 8, as you can see. Each of the tracks here, drum tracks, are going to go, the input's going to go to, as you can see, bus 7 and 8. It's kind of like a meeting point. And once we do that and we establish that, we're going to take the drum auxiliary track and we're going to use the send, which is right here, and we're going to send this all to another bus, which is numerically 9 and 10. And what that does is it allows all of the drum tracks that you want to go to that effects bus to reside there. And a similar plugin that I like to use, for example, on this one is going to be, a stereo drum boost on the Pultec. Well, if everything's going through it and I'm going to put it on there anyway, it's going to share a common plugin. And the EMT, which is a great reverb plate plugin, is going to give me a nice bright, drum room, and I'm going to use that on the drums as well. So rather than open up several instances of Pultecs and EMTs, which again are going to tax the DSP processing and potentially, cause the system to not want to open up others. So it's a way of economizing your use of plugins. And by doing that, it's a great way to, kind of have the effect kind of spread out evenly over the drum set. Much like different than the old days when they used to have rack mount gear and they used to use, patch bays to, funnel all the microphones to, let's say, one, choice compressor that they had, or maybe they had 3 of the same. It's, a luxury to have the physical components. Even today, these older units are quite expensive and finicky. But now that we have emulations, it's a great way to be able to, enjoy those great effects of yesteryear and of today. So I do that with the drums. I do it with the guitars, and it's a great way again to kind of economize, the use of your plugins. You can still put, even though you're doing that, you have the original tracks. You can still open up then, other effects that you don't want everything to share. For example, if you want to use a flanger on, let's say, the snare drum in a certain part, well, you can open up a flanger of your choice. I like the MXR flanger, the ADA flanger. There's a lot of good AIR flangers in Pro Tools that sound great. And, you might want to use that and automate it on a certain section. You might want to use it so that it, accentuates a part. You can still do that. And it's a lot less of a DSP, a strain on the system to do it that way. So I just kind of wanted to touch base real quick on that. I might do a tutorial later on showing, in more depth how to do that, open that up. But it's very simple. There's a lot of YouTube videos out there that show this, and I just wanted to touch base with you. We've hit the 7-minute mark, and I want to say thanks for hanging out, and go ahead and subscribe, and there'll be more content coming your way. I look forward to it, man. Peace.